Sigue lloviendo de ahí hasta allá, hasta acá nos da el agua.
We cannot go to work. That's why every morning when I go to work, I go with a suitcase full of clothes to keep me out of here at least a week or two, because I know if it rains real hard, I will not be able to come home. And it's a terrible feeling.
The residents of Green Valley Farms don't know who to turn to. Rosie has personally taken the problems of the Colonia upon her shoulders. She constantly calls and writes county officials to help solve the flooding problem.
I'm determined. I'm very determined. I could move away, but I'm not going to move away. This area needs a lot of help. Children are always sick because of the disease. It's not right. It's not right.
Rosie has gone before the county commissioners 3 times to complain about the flooding, and each time she's been told they cannot help her. South Texas has the highest number of migrant farm workers in the nation. Almost half of Colonia residents work the fields, earning minimum wage or less. Field work has slowed down in South Texas. Each harvest, boarded-up houses can be seen throughout the Colonias as the migrants travel north in search of jobs. The unemployment rate is the highest in America.
It's way over 20%, which is excessively higher than the rest of the country. A lot of our kids' parents don't work, or they work erratically, or they work as migrants, moving up north, working in Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, so they don't have full-time jobs. Their economic opportunities are really limited.
They're hard-working people. These are not people, if you go to those colonias, these are not people on welfare, or, these are people that work, but they've got low-paying jobs, they've got large families, they've got a lot of bills to pay. They generally won't have insurance. They don't qualify for any Medicaid program or any public assistance program. So every time their child gets sick, they have to pay. So they're strapped. Their only hope, and always their only hope, is their kids are going to make it. They're going to go to school, they're going to get an education, and they'll be able to pull themselves out of it.
Migrant children have it especially hard. Leaving the school year early and starting the school year late, their schedule revolves around the harvest season.
Americans tend to say, well, everybody can pull themselves up by the bootstraps. It takes more than that. They need to be mentored. And it takes people that are willing to sacrifice a lot of things to do that, because it's important. It's important for our nation, it's important for our state, and it's certainly important for La Familia.
They come with the same clothes every year, and I can tell that the parent probably don't have any money to buy the student supplies, clothing. I've seen students without socks, just the shoe alone, and I can tell that student is ashamed of going to school.
I think some of the most poignant stories are the kids. A little girl told us once that the difficult part for her was going to school without being able to wash her hair. The kids are very aware that they live this different existence when they don't have water.
We have children who come to school not as clean as they could come because they don't have running water, they don't have hot water, they don't have electricity. We've had families that are running electrical lines from the neighbor's house. The children are hungry sometimes because sometimes the only meals they eat are the morning breakfast that we serve here at school and the lunch. We have tried to make them like their environment, like what they're doing, make them feel important, make them feel special, make them feel good about being here. Teachers treat them like they would treat their own kids. And I think that's what has helped the children.
The one she decorated her room with scenes from her favorite picture book.
I really love the kids, and see them in that condition. I wish I could do something more for them. But I put everything aside, and sometimes when a kid really needs a lift, I hug him and I tell him, hey, you hang in there. I really hug him and tell him, it's okay, you look fine, you're gonna do okay.
Memorial is like most middle schools in America. The difference here is that the majority of the student body lives in Colonias.
Does he have space to do homework, does he have electricity running through his house? And as an educator, you just hope that the child has the opportunities there available for him, and that is not always the case.
Go ahead and write.
Students here are from a colonia called Las Milpas. With over 12,000 residents, it's one of the largest colonias in South Texas. The school district works twice as hard to create an atmosphere of learning and opportunities. For a lot of the students, school is the only refuge from the economic realities of life in the colonias.
A lot of these people don't have vehicles to get to and from the city. And so anything that they do has to be within walking distance. And I think a lot of the reason why there's a lot of gang activity and crimes out there is because of that.
In a colonia, there are no parks or playgrounds. There are few recreational facilities or after-school programs, leaving a lot of idle time for the most vulnerable.
Most of their parents are working very hard, but they don't have the money, for instance, to hire a babysitter. So you've got kids that are riding their bicycles around 8, 9 o'clock at night with very little supervision on dirt roads, and there are people, forces that are entering this area and trying to lure these kids in, whether it's gangs or drugs or violence, and that scares me.
Many students must choose work over school because of the financial burdens of home. Over half will not finish high school.
They've expressed their feelings of, when I grow up, I want to help my parents. Or when I grow up, I'm going to buy a car so that my father will have a car. Despite the odds, they want to make it like everyone else.
Maria Rojas lives in a colonia called Monte Alto. She's raised 8 children and has made a living by working the fields with her husband. Because field work is scarce in South Texas, Antonio, Maria's husband, sells scrap metal to make ends meet.
You have to look hard to find any work. Eventually you'll find it, but it's more difficult now than before. It used to be that the trucks would come by and wait for workers, and now they don't, because there is less field work.
The Rojas family built this house from scratch. At one time, this 3-room dwelling with no running water was home for 8 children and 2 adults. Knowing that life in the colonias is hard, Maria made sure that all her children graduated high school, and 3 have gone on to college.
I always push my girls and my boys. I always said, go to school. That's the only thing you have, and that's the only thing you're going to have. School. So never drop out of school. So, I don't know, I still think that I did something right.
Blanca, the youngest of the Rojas children, plans to graduate this year and is home on college break. Less than 1% of Colonia children go to college.
I remember a lot of people saying, you can't go to college. I mean, come on, you don't have money. You come from this area who people rarely go to college, rarely get to high school because a lot of people drop out at the 8th grade, even sooner. But I always knew that I wanted to go to college.
Pues yo mis deseos es que termine su escuela y pues que trabaje para su porvenir de ella.
My wish is that she finishes school and works to better her future.
Pues que tenga un buen
I hope
trabajo,
that
que
she
gane
gets a
algo
good
de
job
su
and
para
earns
que
some
tenga su
money
vida
so that she
más
can have a
digna
better
que
life
nosotros,
than what she can
porque,
get
pues,
here. Because here, they only pay the minimum wage. She needs to study because life is difficult without an education.
With the support of her parents and the help of high school teachers and counselors, Blanca earned a work-study scholarship to college. Providence, Rhode Island. Brown University is one of the most prestigious schools in the country.
My mom didn't really know the term Ivy League, and I mean, not many people do around here. I just knew that it was a really good school, and that's where I wanted to go. And I didn't care how I was going to get there, but I was going to get there. When it came down to academics, I knew that there was no way I could match what they knew. They went to prep schools, they already had taken college courses, professors and things like that, and I know I never did. So I knew from the start that that's where I would really struggle with academics.
And what we saw,
I guess I didn't feel intimidated, I just knew what I was up against, and I knew that I had to work a lot harder.
now I come and shine light on this.
A lot more study hours, less socializing. I just really had to work hard to catch up to them. And it was hard because I felt myself running, and as soon as I was going to get to them, they would take off to another step.
Are you working any commencement shifts?
Balancing academics and 2 jobs was difficult, but telling her friends about life in a colonia was something that Blanca struggled to explain.
They asked me, can I go to Texas with you? And I say yes. And but I always mean no. I don't want them to come here. I don't know if I'm embarrassed, but I'm just like, how am I gonna cater to what they're used to? We didn't even have hot water when I was a freshman, so we would boil water in the stove and things like that and take a shower that way. So it was like, they're not gonna do that. There's no way.
In 2 months, college will be over. If they can raise enough money, Blanca's parents have promised to make it to Brown to see her graduate.
Then the tortilla with butter.
I would just love the idea, that they were there. Although, if it can't happen, I understand because of the money issues and things like that. But I won't believe it until I see them.
While life is changing for Blanca, things have stayed the same in the colonia of Monte Alto.
I see a great need here in the valley for helping nuestra gente, my community. They stay living in those conditions for so long until somebody else comes along and tries to help them.
This colonia is called Jessup's. To make a profit, the developer stripped the topsoil off the land, creating a haven for mosquitoes and disease.
With most of these houses, they're very typical. They only have 1 room, and you have, on average, for these families here, about 5 or 6 in the family. So a 1-room house, I would say no bigger than maybe 15 by 15.
Until recently, this 1-room house with a dirt floor was home to Consuelo, her husband, and their 4 children.
The kitchen was over there. That's where we kept the table and stove. And right here, we had beds for the children, and we slept over there. And the living room was here. Over here was where we took a bath. We would bring water in buckets to take a bath.
Jessup's lacks running water. Residents here, like in 50% of all colonias, are forced to use outhouses, posing serious health hazards and sometimes deadly consequences.
2 blocks from here, a little boy drowned. He fell in and drowned. He was about 3 years old. They thought he had wandered out into the street, and his mother was looking for him and couldn't find him. They did see his little shoes down in there and thought the boy had thrown them in. But no, it was the little boy. He was upside down.
I have 23 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. When they come to visit me, I want them to be able to play outside, happy and safe. But with the sewer right there nearby, it's like being next to a rattlesnake. It can suddenly bite you. You can also get a disease from it.
Colonias in Texas have some of the highest rates of hepatitis and typhoid fever in the country. In El Paso, Colonia residents have said they've had enough and are taking matters into their own hands. Believing that the county should be held accountable for the Colonia problems, residents have organized to bring their concerns to county officials. This group is called EPISO, a coalition of over 20 churches that trains Colonia residents to advocate for themselves.
Esto me indigna a mí, porque nosotros estamos batallando allí donde nosotros vivimos. Ustedes saben muy bien lo que nosotros estamos sufriendo. Esto lo hacemos por nuestros hijos. Nosotros exigimos y pedimos que nos ayuden.
I feel the tension to do something about the challenge, that even after all these years and all our work and all the education of elected officials, that we still have the problem today, and it's the new millennium, and there are still families who do not have their basic needs that they deserve in this country, who are living in third world conditions. And it's a big problem for the county because it's a public health issue, it's an environmental health issue, it's about people. It affects children and families, real people who deserve better and who also pay into this system called county government.
County Judge Dolores Briones understands the Colonia residents well. At one time, she too was a member of EPISO.
I have seen the success and the progress that people joining together with their elected officials and with other leaders, what difference they can make for children and families around huge issues like this.
What I think is that organizations like the PISO are becoming universities to teach people, these arts of deliberation and effective participation in democratic life and culture. They're trying to teach people that there is hope for justice in the world. But that hope is only possible to the extent that they are willing to organize.
A lot of the folks from the colonias are basically isolated. So there is really a lack of knowledge of how the bureaucracy works. Grassroots organizations are needed so that we can develop a grassroots movement among our people, okay, so that we can teach them.
The only thing that matters is if Colonia residents begin to organize, get some power, and begin to get state representatives and congressional leaders to begin to deal with those issues.
For years, Texas lawmakers paid little attention to the plight of Colonia residents. Many didn't even know what a colonia was. In the 1970s, while working on migrant issues, Alex Moreno began raising awareness about colonias to legislators, and later, as a state representative, sponsored the first colonia legislation. And Ernie Cortez led a grassroots effort to organize colonia residents and started the slow process of educating policymakers.
I remember once talking